The email came at 11:47 on a Tuesday night. I was still at my desk, still in my work clothes, eating leftover pasta out of a Tupperware container because I hadn't had time to cook a real meal in about 3 weeks. My apartment was dark except for the glow of my laptop. I had 2 spreadsheets open, a half-finished proposal for a client due at 8 the next morning, and a cup of coffee that had gone completely cold. My phone lit up. I almost didn't look at it. I almost just let it sit there. But I reached over out of habit, the way you do when you've been staring at a screen for too long and any distraction feels like oxygen. It was from my dad. The subject line said, FWD, Summer Plans Lavelle. I remember staring at that subject line for a second, Summer Plans Lavelle. My dad doesn't type a lol, he barely types in full sentences. He still calls me on the phone to tell me things he could have texted in 10 words. So that already felt strange. I opened it. He'd forwarded me an email chain, a long one, and I could tell from the first 2 lines that he had no idea he'd sent it to me. He'd meant to send it to my uncle. Their email addresses are almost identical. My dad's is his first name and last name. My uncle's is his first name, middle initial, last name. 1 extra letter. My dad has hit the wrong one before. Birthday reminders, football scores, whatever. This time, it was different. I scrolled down and started reading from the bottom of the chain, the way you do, and I kept reading and reading. And by the time I got to the top, I had stopped eating, and I was just sitting there in the silence of my apartment, in the dark, with my cold coffee and my forgotten pasta, reading the same paragraphs over again because I needed to make sure I was understanding what I was seeing. I need to back up. My name is Lily. I'm 31 years old. I'm a project manager at a mid-sized logistics company, which sounds boring, and honestly, the day-to-day can be, but it pays well. Better than well, actually. I worked extremely hard to get here. I graduated early, took unpaid internships, spent my mid-20s eating rice and beans and saying no to every vacation and every concert ticket and every unnecessary thing while I built something stable. My family is complicated. My parents divorced when I was 12. My mom remarried quickly. My dad didn't remarry at all. He has a brother, my uncle, and between the 2 of them and my mom's side, I grew up in this orbit of people who needed things constantly. Not in a dramatic way. Just constantly. Small things. Help with this. Can you look at that? We're a little short this month. I'm the oldest. I have 1 sibling, my brother. He's 27. He's smart, genuinely, funny, charming in the way that gets people to like him immediately. He has never, in his adult life, held a job for more than 8 months. There's always a reason. The company had problems. The manager was unreasonable. The industry was changing. He was thinking about going back to school. He was working on something of his own. Something was always about to happen with my brother, and nothing ever did. My dad has a bad back, has had it for years, can't do heavy labor anymore. He took an early buyout from his factory job when I was 24 and has been living on that pension plus, whatever odd jobs he can manage. It's not nothing, but it's not enough for the way he was raised to live, which is in a 3-bedroom house in the suburb where he grew up with a truck in the driveway and season tickets to the college games. 3 years ago, he was about to lose the house. He called me on a Sunday morning, and I could hear in his voice that he'd been up all night. He laid it out calmly, the way he does when he's most scared. The second mortgage, the payments he'd missed, the number the bank had given him. He wasn't asking me for anything. He was just telling me. That's what he said. I'm just telling you, Lilybug. He called me Lilybug when I was little, and he still does it when he's scared or tired. I said, how much time do we have? He told me. I said, let me figure something out. I want to be clear about what I did and didn't know then. I knew it was a lot of money. I knew it would stretch me. I did not know, at 28 years old, that I was making a decision that would reshape the next 3 years of my life in ways I couldn't see yet. I covered the missed payments, $4,200. I set up a recurring transfer to help with the monthly shortfall, $600 a month. I told my dad it was a loan, that we'd sort out the details later, that the important thing was keeping the house. He cried. I'd never heard my dad cry before. I pretended I hadn't heard it and talked about something else until he was okay. Then my brother called. He'd heard from my dad. He said he needed help too. He'd gotten behind on his rent. His car insurance had lapsed. He owed a friend money. The amounts were smaller. $1,500, then $800, then $400. Each one was the last one. Each one came with a story and a plan. I said yes every time because I told myself it was temporary, because he was my brother, because I didn't know how to say no to the people I'd grown up with. My mom's situation was different. She and my stepdad had a retail business that was struggling. She never asked directly, she would just mention things. The supplier raised prices. The landlord increased rent. She was thinking about closing early on Saturdays. And then she would stop talking, and I would ask what she needed. And she would say, "Oh, I hate to say it, but..." It was always a different number. Always just enough to not feel catastrophic. Over 2 years, it added up to just under $60,000 between the two of them, her and my stepdad, which I know because I kept a spreadsheet. I keep a spreadsheet of everything. It's my job. I kept helping. I kept saying yes. I told myself it was love, and it was, I think, partly, but it was also that I didn't know what would happen if I said no, and the not knowing was scarier than the money going out. I was not living lavishly during this time. I had a decent apartment. I needed it. I worked from home 2 days a week and needed the space and the quiet. I did not take real vacations. I didn't date seriously. I told myself I was just in a phase, grinding, and that soon things would stabilize and I would have my life back. And then 3 months ago, I found out I was being considered for a director-level position, a significant promotion, significant salary bump. I hadn't said anything to my family. I didn't want to jinx it, but also, honestly, some part of me already knew what would happen if I did. I'd seen it before. Good news in my life became a signal, somehow, that I had more to give. I got the promotion 6 weeks ago. I told my dad first. He was proud. Genuinely, I heard it in his voice. He said he always knew. He said I'd worked so hard. And then, almost in the same breath, he mentioned that the truck was making a noise. I said I'd look into it. But that night, I didn't transfer anything. I didn't look into anything. I sat with a feeling I hadn't let myself feel in a long time, which was that I was tired, not sleepy tired. Tired in the way that lives in your chest. I'd just gotten the best news of my professional life, and my first instinct, before I'd even let myself feel good about it, was to calculate what it would cost me. That was 6 weeks ago. And then 3 weeks ago, my dad forwarded me that email chain. I sat with it for a long time before I let myself understand it fully. Then I read it again. It was a conversation between my dad and my uncle, going back about 10 days. They were talking about a summer trip, a lake house rental, a week, my uncle's family plus my dad and my brother. They were talking about costs, about how to split it. And my dad said, without any apparent awareness of what he was typing, that he wasn't worried about the money side of it because, and I am going to paraphrase because I can't bring myself to write it word for word, because I would cover whatever they needed. That part I could have almost let go. Almost. Maybe. It hurt, but it was within the range of things families say to each other when they stop thinking of someone as a person and start thinking of them as a resource. What I could not let go was what came next. My uncle had made a joke, a little joke about whether I knew I was the family's, and he used the phrase personal bank branch. Ha ha. Very funny. And my dad had written back, and I'm going to be precise here because this is the part I kept rereading until I was certain I was reading it correctly. My dad had written back, "She doesn't mind. She's got no life anyway. What else is she going to spend it on? She's got no life anyway." I sat there for a while after that. I don't know how long. At some point, I noticed the pasta was still on my desk. I put the lid on the container and put it in the fridge. I washed my hands. I came back to my desk and I looked at the email again and I thought, he is not wrong that I have given up my life for this family. And then I thought, but he believes that's fine. He believes that's the arrangement. He believes I don't mind. I did not respond to the email. I did not respond to the email. I did not call my dad. I did not say anything to my brother or my mom or anyone. What I did was open the spreadsheet. I have a document, a real one, not a metaphor, that I have been maintaining since I was 28 years old. Every transfer, every Venmo, every time I covered a bill or handed over cash. Date, recipient, amount, stated reason. I am a project manager. I document things. I don't know exactly why I kept it so meticulously. Maybe some part of me always knew I'd need it one day. Maybe I just couldn't stop myself because it's who I am. The total, as of that night, was $231,000. I had given my family, over 3 years, $231,000. I looked at that number for a long time. I thought about the vacation I didn't take when I was 29 because I said I couldn't afford it. I thought about the couch I've been meaning to replace for 2 years. I thought about the retirement contributions I reduced to increase my monthly cash flow. I thought about a conversation I had with a friend last year where she asked me how I was doing, really doing, and I said, fine, a little stretched, and she said she worried about me sometimes, that I seemed like I was carrying something, and I laughed it off. I thought about all the times I picked up the phone on a Sunday and felt my stomach tighten before I even said hello, because I didn't know what the call would cost. I thought about my dad, sitting somewhere, typing. She's got no life anyway, and hitting send without a second thought. And I made a decision. I want to be very clear about what I did and did not do. I did not scream. I did not scream a long emotional email at midnight. I did not call anyone and cry. I have seen people do that, confront their families in the heat of it, say everything they feel, and get nothing back except defensiveness and denial. And a new version of the story where they're the bad guy. I am a project manager. I make plans. I canceled the recurring transfer to my dad. It was set up as an automatic payment. I went in and canceled it that night. At close to 1 a.m., the way I would close a line item on a budget that was no longer justified. No drama, just a cancellation. Then I did nothing else for a week. I went to work. I made my coffee. I took my calls. I had dinner with a friend and I laughed at the things she said, and I was, for the first time in a while, actually present. I wasn't calculating in the back of my head. I wasn't running numbers. I wasn't bracing. It felt strange. It felt like something I used to know how to do that I'd forgotten. My dad called on the following Sunday. I let it go to voicemail. He called again on Monday. I let that go too. On Tuesday, he texted, "Hey Lilybug, everything okay?" I didn't respond. On Wednesday, my brother texted asking if I could cover his car registration. I said I couldn't right now. He said, "When did you get so busy?" I said I had a lot going on. He said, "Okay," and I haven't heard from him since, which tells you everything you need to know about the texture of our relationship. My mom called on Thursday. She has a sixth sense for these things. She said she'd heard from Dad that I'd been quiet. I said I was fine, just really busy with a new role. She said she was proud of me, the promotion. She really was. And then she said she and my stepdad had been talking about redoing the back room of the store, and they'd found someone, and did I want to hear what the estimate came out to? I said, "Mom, I have to be honest with you. I can't do that right now." She said, "Do what?" I said. "I can't be that person right now, the one you call about the estimate." There was a silence. She said, "I don't know what you mean." I said, "I think you do. I love you. I have to go." And I hung up. 2 days later, I sent my dad an email. Not the email you're maybe imagining, not the long one, not the one with the spreadsheet. Not yet, just a short one. I said I'd been doing some thinking since my promotion, and I was making some changes to my financial commitments. I said I wouldn't be able to continue the monthly support, and that if he wanted to talk about the longer picture, including reimbursement for what I'd contributed over the years, I was open to that conversation when he was ready. I CC'd no one. I sent it from my personal email at 9 a.m. on a Thursday, the same way I'd send a note to a vendor about changing payment terms, because that's what it was, really. That's what it had been. A payment arrangement that one party thought was permanent and unconditional because the other party had never said otherwise. He called me that same afternoon. Not the Lilybug voice. A different voice. Stiff. He said he got my email. He said he wasn't sure what had gotten into me. He said things have been hard and he'd thought he could count on me. I said, "I know things have been hard, Dad. They've been hard for me too." He said, "You got a great job, Lily. You doing well." I said, I am. I worked very hard for that, and I spent 3 years sharing that with you, and I'm glad I could help when things were at their worst. But I have to take care of my own future now. He said, "So that's it? You're just done?" I said, "I'm not done being your daughter. I'm done being the solution to every problem." He got quiet. Then he said, "Where is this coming from?" And here's where I made the choice I'd been turning over for 2 weeks. I could have lied. I could have said it was just my own stuff, my own priorities shifting. I could have let him keep not knowing. But I thought about, she's got no life anyway. I thought about the lake house. I thought about how many Sundays I'd answered the phone with that tightness in my chest and smiled through it, and said, "Of course." I said, "You forwarded me an email by accident a few weeks ago, the one to Uncle Richard about the summer trip." Silence. I said, "I read the whole chain." More silence. Then, "Lily," I said, "I'm not calling to fight about it. I'm calling because you should know that I saw it and that it helped me understand something I'd been slow to see. I love you, Dad. I want to have a real relationship with you. But I can't keep doing what I've been doing." He didn't say much after that. He said he was sorry. I don't know exactly what he was sorry for. The email, or the sentiment behind it, or having been caught, or some combination of all three. I didn't ask. I said I'd talk to him soon, and I meant it, and I hung up. That was 11 days ago. I haven't transferred $1 since the cancellation. I've slept better than I have in 3 years. I've started putting money back into my retirement account. I booked a trip, a real one, not a long weekend, but an actual trip, 10 days, somewhere I've wanted to go since I was 25, and kept telling myself later, once things settled. Things didn't settle. I had to settle them. I have a financial advisor I started seeing 2 months ago, before any of this happened, because of the promotion. She asked me in our first meeting what my biggest financial risk was. I said probably my mortgage exposure or maybe market volatility. She asked me to think more broadly. I didn't answer her then. I think I couldn't, not out loud, but I know now. My biggest financial risk was that I had never, not once in 3 years, said no. My dad texted last week. He said he missed me, and he hoped we could talk soon, and he'd been thinking about what I said. I texted back that I was glad, and that I was here, and we could talk whenever he wanted. I meant that. I have not written off my father. I don't want to. What I've written off is the version of me that answered every call before it finished ringing and gave away every dollar before she'd made sure she had enough to stand on herself. My brother sent a meme yesterday. Nothing else, just a meme. The kind we used to send each other when we were in our early 20s, and everything was lighter. I laughed at it. I sent one back. Maybe that's where we start. My couch, by the way. The one I've been meaning to replace for 2 years. I ordered it last Saturday. It arrives Thursday. It is an objectively nice couch, the kind I kept looking at and closing the tab on for reasons that felt practical, and now just feel like I was very tired for a very long time. I'm not tired anymore. I keep that spreadsheet still. Not to hold over anyone. Not to send in a dramatic email someday when things are bad. I keep it because it's accurate, because it happened, because I spent 3 years of my life and more than $200,000 learning something that most people learn much cheaper. Helping is contributing. Helping is not becoming the foundation that holds up a structure that would collapse without you, quietly, while everyone inside keeps living like the building is fine. The building wasn't fine. I was doing all the work. And the moment I stopped, the people who never noticed I was holding it up started asking where I went. That's usually when you know you made the right call. I've thought a lot about cause and effect since all of this happened. Not in a dramatic way, just quietly, the way you do when you finally have enough stillness to actually think. What I did for 3 years wasn't bad. I want to say that clearly. Helping my dad keep his house wasn't a mistake. Sending money to my brother when he was behind on rent wasn't wrong. Those individual decisions came from a real place. But somewhere along the way, a pattern formed that I didn't name out loud. And unnamed patterns have a way of becoming permanent. What started as help became expectation. What was given freely became assumed. And I kept giving because I told myself it was love, and it was, partly, but I never stopped to ask whether the love was moving in one direction only. That email my dad accidentally forwarded me was the clearest thing that had happened in 3 years. Not because it was cruel exactly, but because it was honest. She's got no life anyway. What else is she going to spend it on? He wasn't being malicious when he typed that. He believed it. That's what you have to sit with. The people who take the most from you are often not villains. They're just people who stopped seeing you as a full person a long time ago, and you let them because saying something felt harder than just continuing. The intelligence I'm most proud of in this whole story isn't the spreadsheet, though I am proud of the spreadsheet. It's that I didn't react the night I read that email. I closed the lid of my laptop and I went to sleep, and I let myself feel the full weight of it before I did anything at all. Reacting from pain is how you become the bad guy in someone else's retelling. Responding from clarity is how you actually change something. And the courage, because I think that's the right word, wasn't in the confrontation. It was in the cancellation. That first automatic transfer I turned off at 1 a.m. alone in my apartment without anyone watching. Nobody saw that. There was no audience. I just sat in the dark and clicked cancel and felt something loosen in my chest that had been tight for a very long time. That's where the real moment was. Not in the phone call with my dad, not in the email I sent, not in any of the conversations that followed. In that one quiet choice, by myself, at 1 a.m. Here's what I understand now that I didn't understand at 28. You can love people and still have limits. Those two things are not in conflict. Setting the limit isn't abandonment. It's just honesty about what you can sustain, about what you actually have, about what a relationship costs when only one person is paying for it. The couch arrives Thursday. It is a very nice couch. Every time I look at it, I'm going to remember that I earned it, that I worked extremely hard, and that I spent too long transferring the results of that hard work to people who joked about it in emails they didn't mean to send me. I'm not angry about it anymore. I was for a while. Now I'm mostly just clear, and clear feels a lot better than angry. It feels a lot better than tired, too.